Hello, my name is Earl Redke, and I am pleased to have the chance to present a short introduction of the topic risk-based thinking. You may have heard of this term, or perhaps not. There has been a lot of discussion about it recently because of the change to the ISO 9001 standard in 2015, which now calls for risk-based thinking in organizations. After my talk, these are the points I'd like you to be able to do. First, define what we mean by risk. Define risk-based thinking. Explain the 6 phases of the risk management life cycle. Provide examples of the application of risk-based thinking. Let's move right into discussing what we mean by the term risk. The definition of risk in ISO Guide 73 is the effect of uncertainty on objectives. Many people struggle with this definition, but let's break it down. An effect is essentially an outcome or a consequence. Essentially, the definition means that a risk is an uncertain consequence that may impact business objectives. No, there's nothing in the definition that says the impact must be negative. It could be a positive impact. The key is that the impact, both its magnitude and its likelihood, are uncertain. There are 3 elements to a risk. First, it describes a condition, something that may happen with some probability. Secondly, it has a cause. There's a reason for the condition to occur. And third, it has a consequence, an impact on the project's objectives. There's a separate training on describing risk using this 3C method of condition, cause, and consequence. So, why should we concern ourselves with risks? The simple answer is that if negative risks occur and they impact our operations, we may incur extra costs, delays, and other damages, such as injuries to our people or damage to the impact of the organization. Traditionally, we've handled risks in a box that we call risk management. Risk management consists of 6 steps that are represented by this graphic. First, we identify the risks, describing what could happen, why, and the potential impact. Second, we assess the impact in terms of magnitude and likelihood. Third, we determine what we're going to do about the risk. How will we respond? Then we monitor the risk as we perform the associated activity by asking questions such as, did the risk happen? Has the potential impact changed? Is the risk more or less likely than we thought? How effective has our response been? Do we need to modify our response? Next, we keep others informed about the risk, and we escalate it to higher management levels if we need more help in dealing with it, or the impact has substantially increased. Finally, we ask ourselves what we've learned from this risk and how we can change how we do things to limit future damage to negative risk and enhance our future benefits from positive risks. We call this sustain and continuously improve. And what is risk-based thinking? It's simply the idea that we need to take this risk management process out of its toolbox and apply it as part of our daily business. Oh, certainly, we need to continue to apply risk management as part of PM at Siemens. This standard project process already includes risk-based thinking. For those who work in projects, this is the familiar LOA during pre-bid, the creation and maintenance of a risk register, the reflection of risk contingency in the project financial reporting, and lessons learned to sustain and continuously improve. But this is just one example of where we can apply risk-based thinking to our business. Let's look at power generation services for another one. They handle over 1,000 outage events where they service, repair, or upgrade equipment, and this is every year. They use a risk checklist before every outage to determine the level of risk involved in the event. Essentially, the risk identification is embedded in the checklist, and the score from the checklist is the assessment. Based on this score, they decide how to respond. And this could be as high as review by the head manager of the region. I hope you're starting to get the idea of risk-based thinking. It's a general concept that can be applied throughout the business. Upper management uses risk-based thinking when making major business decisions. Take, for example, the acquisition of another company. The same 6-step models applied. First, they identify what could go wrong with the acquisition. And then 2, assess the level of impact this could have on our business. They next determine how they are going to respond to these risks. This could range from changing the negotiation strategy to abandoning the acquisition altogether. Fourth, they will monitor these risks throughout the acquisition process, as well as during the process of integrating the acquired firm into Siemens, making adjustments to their response based on how the risk is developing. Fifth, they will report and escalate the risk status of the acquisition to the board. And finally, they will learn from the experience to sustain and continuously improve so that future acquisitions will be even more successful. But risk-based thinking is also for each individual in performing their daily work. Consider a software developer creating a new product feature. How would she apply risk-based thinking to this task? First, she'd identify what could go wrong. For example, the planned algorithm might not be efficient enough to meet the performance requirements, or an open source module may not perform exactly as documented. Then the developer would think about how likely these risks might be and what impact they could have on the development of the new feature. This is risk assessment. Next, the developer would consider how to respond to the risks. For example, create a proof of concept for the algorithm to test performance, or create a special test harness to demonstrate that the open source module meets requirements. As development progresses, the developer will monitor these risks. Is the performance meeting expectations? Is the open source functioning correctly? If the risks endanger the planned effort and schedule for the product feature, the developer will keep management informed. This is reporting and escalating. And finally, the developer would use the results of this development to sustain and continuously improve. For example, by documenting restrictions for using the open source module on future projects. In summary, risk-based thinking is something that we can and must use in all parts of our business. Let's summarize risk-based thinking as the idea that we consider all possible effects of an action before moving forward. Reflect this consideration in our planning. Keep an eye on these effects. Report as needed, and learn from our experience. I hope you found this short introduction to this important topic of risk-based thinking to be both insightful and helpful. If you're interested in learning more about risk management and would like to learn more about applying risk-based thinking in PM at Siemens, a next useful training would be the video, Introduction to Project Risk Management. Thank you very much for your attention.
Siemens, ingenuity for life.